Hi, welcome to the Legislators Lounge. I'm Jim Webb, the host of the show. My co-host is Brian Chericello. Today with us, we have Michael Zaino, who's running for Rockingham County Attorney. Welcome.
How's it going?
Good.
Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Welcome, Mike. We want to apologize first off that we were unable to invite you when we had the first show with the other three candidates. So we're happy that you were able to come today and give us maybe you could give us a little bit of background about yourself for the audience.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate that. Apologies, not necessary, but thank you for having me on here. I appreciate it. My name is Michael Zaino. I'm running for Rockingham County Attorney. I've been a prosecutor for about 9 years. In that time, I've worked for the Rockingham County Attorney's Office as well as the Hillsborough County Attorney's Office. And for a brief period of time, I got a really unique privilege to be a Special Assistant United States Attorney when I was working with Hillsborough. So I worked directly with DEA and their HIDA program. I got to be cross-designated, could prosecute cases in state and federal court. It was a really great opportunity. I've been living in Hampton for about 12 years with my wife and my two boys, Nico, who's 10, and Deacon, who's 3. Nico's a surfer, a little surf rat, and Deacon's just a troublemaker. But we've been living there for 12 years. My wife's born and raised in Stratham. Been a career prosecutor since I've been an attorney, and I think this is an excellent opportunity for me to give back to my community and running for Rockingham County Attorney.
Excellent.
All right. Well, let's start with the same question I asked the other candidates, and I'm going to say the word Jim Reams. What do you have to say about it? What do you think about that?
It's a very interesting chain of events, watching it unfold, having worked there, having worked with everyone in that office. I consider myself fortunate to have left prior to everything going on, so I didn't have to experience it firsthand. But the allegations themselves are a little concerning, having worked there. Obviously, I've known people that are involved and known some of the information that's been going around. But I think the important thing now is that Jim is retired. He's resigned and no longer really a factor, I think, for us as candidates in terms of where are we focusing our attention. I think Jim did some positive things in that office in terms of technology and keeping it up to date. As well, I think that there's some, leadership style things that I would do differently moving forward.
Great. I asked the other candidates what they would do if they got elected. What would they change in that office? And I'll ask you the same question.
No, it's a good question. The office has been rather stagnant in terms of how it's been operated for a long time, and I think that law enforcement as well as the staff could use a little shake-up in that. I think my plan going in day one is sit down with the whole staff, and it goes like this. Welcome to the first day of your new job at the Rockingham County Attorney's Office. I think it's important that they need to buy into the new concept of the office, that they need to want to be there. There's a new leadership. We're going to change direction. Is this something you're on board with, or is this something you don't want to do? And I think by doing that way, everyone has a fresh stake. Everybody's now buying into the new direction of the ship and is saying, all right, this is something I can buy into, or you know what, this is something I don't think is where I want to be and not something I want to do.
Right.
So I think that's going to be key is, I don't know if you've tracked it, but morale over there is pretty low based on what's going on, obviously. We would expect that.
Yeah.
But if you actually go back further than that, it's been for the past 3 years. I know you two are on the delegation. You've seen the staff come and go. You're involved in the budget. And there's been a high turnover there. A lot of it we can say is money related, and that's what a lot of the letters say when people leave, including my own letter. But I think there's more to it than that. I think as prosecutors, we don't expect to get rich. I don't think we're in this line of work for that reason. And we can deal with that, but the work environment was really kind of taking a sour toll. And I think losing half the staff in 3 years is a really good example of that.
Right.
Well, you had mentioned the key word ship, and that's jumping off ship. And we brought that up in our last episode when we interviewed about how people were going to Hillsborough County. And is that where you went when you left Rockingham County? So
It is.
So the exact example that we were talking about,
Right.
You are the example. So
Absolutely.
So what was the primary reason why you left?
The first time I left, because I worked there twice, in 2007 was the opportunity. I mean, there was a grant position for this U.S. Attorney Special Assistant to work with DEA to
Right.
prosecute high trafficking drug dealers. I can't attribute that to anything else than that opportunity, and it was a great one. When the grant ended, I consider myself very fortunate that I built such a good reputation in Rockingham that I was hired back, and I was very fortunate for that. But then I served there for 3 years when I came back, and you could really see the toll waning. I had an opportunity to go to Hillsborough at one point, and I said no. My wife was pregnant with our youngest, and it wasn't the right time to make such a change. But towards the end, it really was not a very pleasant environment to work in. I've had conversations with the commissioners about the environment. I had conversations with Jim Reams at the time about the environment. And Hillsborough did offer more money. Their pay structure is different. When I was in Rockingham, as you know, it was a terrible economy.
Right.
The pay stayed stagnant. Like everywhere else, our benefits costs are going up and your pay is staying stagnant. So that was a factor for sure. But when you couple it with the environment, it was time.
Yeah, and when we look at the pay scale, the matrix currently
Yes.
of Rockingham County, it looks like the first 3 years they're probably the better paid
I agree.
than anywhere else, any other county. So the first 3 years, I would say they're top heavy there, but then it evens out, and other counties would actually pay a little bit more. And when I looked at that, I thought maybe what we were doing is we were training new attorneys, you know, to prepare for leaving and making money elsewhere, you know.
Correct.
What's your thoughts on that? I mean, should we shake that matrix up a little bit? I mean,
I do think the structure that's there in terms of the pay matrix, and they have the categories of attorneys, your leads, your attorney twos, and then your regular everyday attorneys. You are definitely paying well for right out of law school, which is typically what you're trying to recruit in a prosecutor's
You want
office.
to attract.
Exactly. New attorneys, you can shape them, you can mold them, you can make them into good attorneys. And that's a pretty competitive salary there, if not on the higher end.
Right.
But I do think it really doesn't climb consistent with, say, a Hillsborough, where you start lower, but you make larger jumps as you move through the years.
right.
And you know, having an experienced career prosecutor is a value to the community. I'm not trying to say we just deserve money because we're attorneys. I mean, there's a value there, being experienced and being able to handle those cases. And I think with those larger jumps, it really promotes the fact that if you stay with us, we'll reward you. And that has a value to the community. So I do like Hillsborough's pay structure better in that regard. It really rewards you for staying quicker than Rockingham's.
Right. But would you add on to the budget, or would you take what the current matrix and maybe cut a little bit up the front, make it more on par with Hillsborough, and then maybe pay the years, you know, 5, 6, and 7 a little bit better?
I don't like the idea of tiered attorneys in such a small office. If we had hundreds of attorneys, I think that makes great sense, because then you really need a direct supervisory role over units and other accountability. In Rockingham County, you really don't have that many attorneys. I think you have a deputy and you have a county attorney.
Yeah.
That's how it is in Hillsborough. They have 2 different offices. They have 1 county attorney and 2 deputies. I like the idea as attorneys that we're all the same. I recognize you've been there longer and you're going to make more money as a result of that, but we're all doing the same job. We're all fighting the same fight. We're all prosecuting the same cases. We're all doing the same trials. I think our pay should be equal in that regard. So I think if we can actually go within those 3 tiers that we have, there could be a way to restructure it so that it's not a major increase. Because I'm a taxpayer too.
Right, absolutely.
I don't want to pay the taxes.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go a little bit on the. We heard a lot about each candidate that was on prior explained their experience. Now I know you just did it during your intro, but my question is how many cases have you prosecuted? I mean, real cases, and won versus lost. I mean, that sort of thing.
The prosecutor I know has a great quote. I've won cases I should have lost, and I've lost cases I should have won.
Well,
you never know what 12 people are going to do in a room. You know, I have a really unique set of experience, I think. I started as a criminal attorney with the Rockingham County Attorney's Office, having no prior prosecution or criminal law experience. And I started there, they gave me a chance, and I really took on and took off. They started me in district court. At the time, as you know, Rockingham prosecuted for Candia and Nottingham in their local district court. So I was assigned there. I had a felony caseload, but I also prosecuted for those towns. Great experience. Every day you're in court, you're learning on your feet, and the consequences of a mistake are much lower at the district court level than they are at the superior court level. So it was a good experience for me to start learning how to prosecute cases in that environment. And at the same time, I'm working with attorneys at the superior court level and learning how to do felonies. So that really gave me a quick kind of catapult into how to be a prosecutor. Then when I got the opportunity to go to Hillsborough, I really developed my own set of skills because I was on my own. I had a lot of authority, I had a lot of flexibility. I was going between the county attorney's office and the U.S. attorney's office. I felt like I had a lot of trust from them, you know, U.S. Attorney Tom Colantuno at the time, as well as County Attorney Marguerite Wageling. They trusted me, and I think as a result of that, I was able to flourish. It was a very, very high caseload. The Hillsborough drug prosecutor is buried between the sheriff's, the Manchester Police has an SIU unit, the state police has an NIU unit, the Attorney General's Drug Task Force has a unit, the DEA, HIDA, all of them are playing in Manchester Sandbox. I mean, there's that much going on over there.
Yeah.
So I was prosecuting all those cases and still carrying a, you know, fairly heavy caseload at the federal level as well. So I think that experience was huge for me in terms of being able to manage and triage cases. How am I going to handle this huge volume?
Right.
I mean, there'd be times when I'd have over 130 cases at a time. So it's managed chaos is what it comes down to.
Well, from what I understand, and this is what I got out of a lot of the stuff, is that the Rockingham County is more of an administration position than it is an actual prosecution position.
Right.
Is that something that you want to change? I mean, would you, as the county attorney, actually go into the court and fight the cases?
I mean, as county attorney, obviously the most important piece is running that office. That's got to be job number one, and making sure morale is good, making sure direction is clear, and making sure there's accountability with everyone in that office. Those are your main goals as county attorney. But yeah, I'm a trial attorney. I love what I do. I like to watch, I've worked for 4 different county attorneys. I've seen it done every way. Jim Reams was never in the courtroom. Bob Walsh, when he was county attorney in Hillsborough, was never in the courtroom. But Marguerite Wageling was. Patty LaFrance is. You know, they have a couple of cases so that they can keep, you know, fresh on what's going on. I think the key you gain by doing that is perspective. If you're going to tell your attorneys to go do X, Y, and Z, and you're not in there doing X, Y, and Z, it's not the same.
It's a respect thing. I agree 100% with that.
If you're going to lead them, I think that's how you do it, by example. I'm not saying you're carrying a full caseload. You can't.
Right.
You just can't. But you need to keep tabs on them, and by having a case here and there, you do.
Yeah. One of the issues that when we were talking to the other attorneys on the other show was the issue with heroin and how it's just getting out of hand.
Epidemic is the word.
In the state, actually in the country, you know. I found it interesting, the different views of the attorneys of what they would do for people that actually break into homes to support their heroin habit.
Right.
You know, is it something we hit them hard, or is it something that we need to give them a break and see if we can get to rehabilitate them? What's your thoughts on that?
It's interesting. I not only am I a drug prosecutor, I'm also a professor. I teach for Granite State College. And in that capacity, one of the courses I teach is law and ethics in healthcare. And one of the keys we study is addiction. So we can debate all day long, is addiction a disease or is it a choice?
Right.
And based on how you view that is going to dictate how you view how you sentence and punish those individuals. Okay, let's ignore that for a second. Breaking into a home is a choice.
Right.
The disease is not forcing you to do that.
Right.
So I think you have to break it down to what's the choice the individual is making. And if that choice is, I'm choosing how to get money to support my habit, that's a choice that needs to be punished, because that's how you're going to deter that choice. You can't rehabilitate that. In terms of if it's an addiction and it's driving them to go buy more drugs or it's driving them to go use more drugs, I think the focus there needs to be rehabilitation.
Right.
So the motive is huge.
So in other words, you would say, I know this is what I thought I just heard you say, is that you'd prefer to prosecute versus to rehabilitate as a punitive thing because of the fact that you believe that it's a choice.
Yes, I think that has to be the priority. In New Hampshire, we have goals in sentencing. Every sentencing, every case. Punishment, rehabilitation, and deterrence. Those are the goals that the court wants to accomplish with every case. Incarceration serves 2. It punishes and it deters. It sends a pretty strong message that, you know, maybe I'm not that interested in going to jail. But rehabilitation is going to be a factor in every sentence. It has to be. So punishment comes first. You do your time. You're the one that did it. You made this choice. But then let's talk about what programming we can offer you through the Department of Corrections and Supervision. You know, there's one great program they have called Thinking for a Change. It's a great program. It's about how you process things in your daily life so that when you're faced with that choice, you're walking by that house, it doesn't look like anyone's home, I'm having a fix.
Right.
What thought processes am I going to go through at this point? Perhaps I'll choose not to go in the house next time.
Well, you know, I don't know, because I look at it this way. If you're going to break in a house, whether somebody's home or not, you don't know that. And if somebody's home, I think the punishment should be higher, especially if you do it at night when you know somebody's home, because you know, people really they kind of lose faith in the law when you see people that do these heinous crimes and then they get off, or they might do a crime against a child and be out in 5 years when they were sentenced to 25 years. You know, so
yeah, I mean, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, for example, is notorious for that. You know, I have a case where we're prosecuting someone who committed murder, and their sentence was like 25 years. But you look on their record, and they're committing new crimes like 9 years later.
Ugh.
So, what went wrong? You know.
Well, apparently they weren't rehabilitated.
Definitely not.
Well, we got about 5 minutes. I want to be able to give you an ending point and maybe point people to a website. But before that, I want to ask you a quick question as far as, the last question would be communication. How would you communicate with the local communities within Rockingham County? I thought I heard in the last show that it could get better.
Oh, much better. Yeah, there's definitely a lack of communication with several police departments in the county. And it was an us versus them, and that's got to go. I mean, we can't accomplish the goals of justice, of, you know, protecting the community if we're fighting against each other or if we're not supportive of each other. So definitely open up those lines of communication is huge. And it has to be at every level. I mean, I think our attorneys need to be communicating with the individual officers on individual cases. That is how you start. And if they can get the buy-in at that level, it's just going to spread right up the chain. I mean, in Hillsborough right now, I'm constantly emailing with the officers in Manchester. If we can do it in the largest PD in the state, we can do it with every PD in Rockingham County.
Right.
And if you have them as part of your team on your prosecution, it's not like they did a job and it's over. It's, all right, that's the start. Let's take it to the next level. How do you want to see it handled? This is what I think are the strengths. These are the weaknesses. Let's see how we can work through it. And they buy in on it. And as a result, everyone's happy in the end. And I think we produce a better product that way. Communication at the community level is huge. We talked about heroin. I know we only have a few minutes.
Yeah.
But we really need to take a really direct look at ourselves here and how we're viewing addicts and addiction. Portsmouth recently had a community access to recovery event. No other candidates were there. That's really sad. It was about opening up communication between treatment providers, addicts, and police, and no other candidates were there. That's how we're going to win this war. We can't do it through the criminal justice system alone. It's not going to work. We need to get in the communities, we need to get in the hospitals, we need to get in the doctor's offices, and we need to open up that dialogue so that together we can actually do something.
Yeah, good point.
Yes.
We're going to let you, we'll take a couple minutes here and close out, and maybe you can point, if you've got a website, maybe if people want to find out more about you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. As I said, I'm running for Rockingham County Attorney. I do truly believe I'm the most uniquely qualified person. I look at it as the right candidate at the right time. We are in the throes of a heroin epidemic. I'm the only candidate that has federal drug prosecution experience. I've dealt with hundreds of drug dealers. I've dealt with thousands of drug addicts. I've met with them. I've interviewed them. I think that gives me a real key insight into being able to help this county and lead it forward in dealing with that issue. I have experience prosecuting all types of cases, from attempted murder down to speeding tickets. I know what it takes to be a prosecutor. I know what it takes to hold people accountable. I've supervised attorneys in the office. I've supervised staff. I'm ready and I'm prepared to lead that office going forward. My website is www.zaino2014.com. It tells you all about me, my bio, what I've been doing in my career, what I do in my life. It's really an opportunity for you to get to know me. I appreciate it if you take a look. If you have any questions, my cell phone's on there, my email's on there. Give me a call or shoot me an email. I look forward to your support. I look forward to working with you as the next Rockingham County Attorney. Thank you.
Well, this has been the Legislators Lounge. I'm Jim Webb, the host of the show. My co-host, Brian Churchill. Once again, we've had Michael Zaino, who's running for county attorney in Rockingham County. You can find us on the web as well. We have a website. It's derrylounge.com. Right. You could also find us on Facebook. If you search Legislators Lounge, you can find us there. And we also have this and every other show we've produced on our YouTube channel. So if you search Legislators Lounge, you'll find us on YouTube. Until the next time, thanks for watching.